right, guys. Tonight we're diving deep into a myth that's probably lulled more ancient Greeks to sleep than a lifetime supply of warm goat's milk and the gentle hum of a lyre. We're going to untangle the tale of Persephone, a story so central to their world it literally explained why the seasons changed, why crops grew, and why sometimes you just had to pull out that extra blanket. You're about to embark on a journey that begins in sun-drenched fields and descends into the shadowy depths, a journey you probably won't survive without at least a mild sense of drowsy wonder. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're listening from in the comments and what time it is for you right now. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself standing in a field, not just any field, mind you, but one bathed in perpetual spring. Imagine the kind of place where every flower blooms simultaneously, where the air is thick with the scent of narcissus and hyacinth, so sweet it almost tickles your nose. This isn't some manicured garden. It's wild, untamed beauty, stretching as far as your sleepy eyes can see. The sun, a gentle golden orb, warms your skin, making you feel utterly content, utterly safe. You can almost hear the lazy buzz of bees, the distant murmur of a stream, and perhaps the soft laughter of nymphs playing hide and seek among the blossoming trees. This, my friends, is where our story truly begins. This is the domain of Persephone, a goddess of unparalleled beauty and a spirit as light as the petals she often gathered. She's not yet the queen of the underworld, shrouded in mystery and shadow. No, in this idyllic moment, she is simply Kor the Maiden. You can see her, perhaps in your mind's eye, skipping through the wildflowers, her arms laden with vibrant blooms, her hair unbound and catching the sunlight like spun gold. She's laughing, a sound like wind chimes, completely unaware of the fate that hovers just beyond the horizon. It's a snapshot of pure, unadulterated innocence, a pastoral dream. The ground beneath your bare feet is soft, fertile, a testament to the bounty that her mother Demeter, the goddess of grain and agriculture, bestows upon the world. Every stalk of wheat, every ripe olive, every cluster of grapes owes its existence to Demeter's watchful eye and nurturing hand. So, you can imagine this field where Persephone plays isn't just a pretty place. It's the very heart of life's abundance, a vibrant symphony of growth and vitality. Historians still argue whether the Eleusinian Mysteries, a secret ancient Greek religious cult, originated from this myth, or if the myth was retrofitted to explain their agricultural rites. It's one of those chicken or egg situations that keeps scholars up at night, probably with a good cup of chamomile tea. You might notice as you stroll through this mythical meadow the sheer variety of flowers. It's not just a few types. It's every bloom imaginable, from the delicate anemone to the proud gladiolus. It's a riot of color, a painter's palette spilled across the landscape. And Persephone, with the joyous abandon of youth, is picking them, creating garlands, tossing petals into the air like confetti. She's enjoying the simple, everyday pleasures of existence, oblivious to the grand cosmic drama about to unfold. It's a bit like someone scrolling through cat videos online, completely unaware that a surprise pop quiz on quantum physics is about to drop. You just never see it coming, do you? One quirky tidbit about this initial scene. Some versions of the myth suggest that the particular flower Persephone was reaching for, just before everything went sideways, was a narcissus. Now, you might think, oh, how poetic, a flower of self-love. But in this context, it was often described as a flower of irresistible beauty, specifically cultivated by Gaia Mother Earth to lure Persephone. It wasn't just a random bloom. It was a cosmic trap, a botanical snare set with divine intent. It makes you wonder if there's a celestial florist out there with a very specific and rather dark client list. The air is still almost unnervingly so, save for the gentle rustle of leaves. You can feel a sense of peace, a tranquility that seeps into your very bones. This is the world as it should be, balanced, harmonious, overflowing with life. And Persephone, the innocent maiden, is its embodiment. She represents the vibrant, youthful aspect of nature, the budding potential, the promise of endless spring. She's not weighed down by responsibilities or the burdens of a crown, whether floral or infernal. She's just being. And in this calm before the storm, you can almost taste the sunshine and the sweet pollen on the air, an idyllic sensory experience before the inevitable shift. This sense of peace, however, is about to be shattered in the most dramatic way imaginable, leaving behind a world plunged into a grief so profound it would affect every living thing. The tranquility of the meadow, that perfect sun-drenched idyll where you've been lingering, suddenly wavers. You feel it before you see it. A low rumble, a vibration that starts deep within the earth, beneath your very feet. It's not the gentle tremor of a distant storm or the playful rustle of a summer breeze. This is something far more ancient, far more ominous. The ground begins to pulse, a slow, deliberate heartbeat of the planet, growing steadily stronger. You glance around, a flicker of unease stirring within you. The wild flowers, which moments ago danced so freely, now seem to shiver. The air, previously so sweet, takes on a strange, heavy quality, almost as if it's holding its breath. Then, with a sound like 1,000 crashing thunderclaps contained beneath the surface, the earth rips open. Not a gentle crack, mind you, but a violent tearing chasm that splinters the vibrant meadow, swallowing flowers and fertile soil in its gaping maw. It's like watching a stage curtain rip apart, revealing something utterly unexpected and terrifying behind it. From the depths of this sudden, terrible fissure, a chariot emerges. Not just any chariot, but one drawn by four powerful coal-black horses, their eyes glowing with an unholy light. And at the reins, cloaked in shadow and radiating an aura of chilling authority, sits Hades. You remember Hades, right? Lord of the Underworld, brother to Zeus and Poseidon, but one who rarely bothered with the sunlit world of mortals or gods. He preferred the silent, somber dominion beneath the earth, a place of shades and forgotten things. He's not your typical charming prince, let's put it that way. More of a brooding, intense, and definitely doesn't do small talk kind of deity. And here he is bursting forth from the very ground, shattering the peace of Persephone's spring. It's a bit like finding out your reclusive, goth-adjacent uncle just bought a monster truck and decided to drive it through a botanical garden. Unexpected, to say the least. Persephone, caught entirely off guard, lets out a gasp, her basket of flowers tumbling from her grasp, scattering colorful petals across the trembling ground. The laughter that echoed moments ago dies in her throat, replaced by a sound of pure terror. You can feel the shift in the atmosphere, the sudden drop in temperature, the way the light itself seems to dim, as if even the sun recoils from the sheer force of Hades' presence. This isn't a kidnapping born of cunning or elaborate planning. It's a raw, brutal act of abduction driven by the lonely king's desperate desire for a queen. Hades, according to the myths, had been watching Persephone from afar, perhaps from a convenient fissure in his dark realm, or maybe just from his celestial Netflix subscription. Who knows? Either way, he had decided she was the one. And Hades, much like a person who sees a really nice piece of furniture online and clicks buy now without checking the dimensions, tends to act on impulse when he wants something. Except his buy now button involves tearing apart the very fabric of reality. A quirky tidbit, some ancient Greek artistic depictions show Hades actually carrying Persephone into the chariot, suggesting a more direct, forceful snatch, rather than just a quick ride-along. It paints a rather clear picture of his charm offensive, doesn't it? As the chariot hovers precariously over the chasm, Hades reaches out his hand, surprisingly strong, closing around Persephone's arm. She struggles, of course, twisting and crying out, but her strength is no match for that of a god, especially one who rarely has to exert himself. The air crackles with the force of his will. You can almost hear her desperate cries echoing across the field, though no one but you, and perhaps a few startled nymphs who immediately dove for cover, are there to witness this horrific event. This abduction, a pivotal moment in Greek mythology, underscores a common theme: the vulnerability of even goddesses to the whims of more powerful deities. Historians still argue whether this myth and similar abduction narratives reflects actual societal practices of arranged marriages, or even ritualistic kidnappings in ancient Greece, or if they are purely symbolic narratives about the shifting seasons and natural cycles. The horses snorting plumes of dark mist, seem impatient, pawing at the air. They are not creatures of the surface world. They are beings of shadow and grim purpose, eager to return to the cold comfort of their master's realm. You can feel the suction of the chasm, a powerful unseen force pulling everything towards its depths. It's a sensory overload, the roar of the earth, the frantic whinnying of the horses, Persephone's terrified screams, and the chilling silence of Hades himself. He doesn't speak. He just acts a silent, imposing force of nature, or rather, unnature, bringing chaos to the orderly world. In a swift, brutal movement, Hades pulls Persephone into the chariot. Her protests are stifled, her struggles futile. The chasm pulses, eager to reclaim its master and his new, unwilling queen. And then, with a final echoing roar, the chariot plunges back into the earth, disappearing into the darkness from which it came. The fissure snaps shut with a violent shudder, as if the very ground is trying to forget the horror it just witnessed. The meadow is left scarred, a raw, ugly wound across its otherwise pristine beauty. Where the earth was torn, black soil is exposed, and the vibrant flowers are crushed, wilted, or swallowed whole. The sunlight, though still present, seems to dim its warmth, fading, leaving behind a chill that penetrates deeper than the mere absence of sun. The air is still, but now it's a heavy, sorrowful stillness, a silent testament to the violence that just transpired. You are left standing in the silent aftermath, the lingering scent of ozone and freshly turned earth, and a profound sense of wrongness. The world has changed. The silence that follows Hades's abrupt departure is deafening. You stand amidst the wreckage of what was once a perfect meadow, now scarred by the raw black earth where the chasm had been. The vibrant colors seem muted, as if the very joy has been sucked out of the landscape. A chilling gust of wind whispers through the remaining flowers, a mournful sigh, and you shiver, feeling the pervasive sense of loss that hangs heavy in the air. The world feels wrong, unbalanced. Suddenly a cry echoes across the desolate field, a sound that rips through the heavy stillness, raw with anguish and pure unadulterated grief. It's a sound that would make the hair on your arms stand on end, a primal wail that speaks of a mother's worst nightmare. You turn, and there, rushing into the scarred clearing, is Demeter. She's not the calm, benevolent goddess of the harvest you might imagine. She's a force of nature, unleashed, her eyes wide with a frantic terror, her movements jerky and desperate. Imagine for a moment the sheer crushing weight of a parent realizing their child is gone, not just misplaced, not just playing hide and seek a little too well, but gone, vanished. Demeter's agony is palpable. It radiates off her in waves, distorting the very air around her. She tears through the remaining flowers, her hands trembling as she searches, calling out Persephone's name, her voice cracking with each desperate cry. You can see her frantic eyes scanning the horizon, hoping against hope to see her daughter skipping back into view, perhaps having just played a cruel joke. But there's no joke here. There's only the gaping wound in the earth, the trampled flowers, and the chilling absence. Demeter falls to her knees, scooping up handfuls of the freshly turned dark soil, as if clinging to the last remnants of where her daughter once stood. The earth, usually so responsive to her touch, feels cold and unresponsive, a stark metaphor for the despair gripping her. This immediate visceral reaction from Demeter highlights the powerful bond between mother and child. A bond so strong it ripples through the very fabric of the cosmos. Historians still argue whether Demeter's grief is merely a personification of winter, or if the myth aims to portray the profound emotional experience of loss in a way that resonated deeply with ancient Greek family structures and values. Her initial panic gives way to a burning determination. Grief for Demeter is not passive. It's a fuel for relentless action. She rises, her face grim, her jaw set. You can almost see the spark of divine resolve ignite in her eyes. She transforms from a grieving mother into a relentless seeker. She doesn't wait. She doesn't hesitate. She immediately begins her search. Think of it like someone frantically hitting refresh on every news app and social media feed, desperately searching for any clue, any hint, any sign. Except Demeter isn't searching the internet. She's searching the entire world. Her first instinct is to retrace Persephone's steps, to follow any faint trace she might have left. You see her calling out her voice now, hoarse, searching every grove, every stream, every shadowed nook where a young goddess might playfully hide. But there's nothing, no laughter, no response, just the deepening silence. As the hours turn into days, her desperation grows. She refuses food, refuses drink, refuses sleep. Her hair, usually neatly braided with stalks of wheat, becomes disheveled, matted with dust and sorrow. Her robes, once vibrant and clean, become torn and mud-stained. She's no longer the elegant goddess. She's a mother consumed by a singular, overwhelming purpose. One quirky tidbit from the myth is how Demeter prepared for her search. She takes up a pair of flaming torches lit from the fires of Mount Etna, a volcanic mountain. Imagine that a goddess fueled by sorrow striding across the landscape with two massive, perpetually burning torches, illuminating her frantic quest through day and night. It's a stark, dramatic image, like a cosmic detective with unlimited battery life, searching for a missing person. You can almost feel the heat radiating from those torches, not just physical heat, but the fiery intensity of her maternal love. She wanders far and wide, her journey spanning across lands and seas. You might envision her walking through sun-baked fields, across jagged mountain passes, even venturing into the misty edges of the world. Every village she passes, every mortal she encounters, she questions her voice, pleading desperate for any shred of information. Have you seen my daughter Kor? a maiden fair of face, with hair like ripe grain, but no one has seen her. No one has heard her. The silence from the mortal world is as deafening as the silence from the heavens. This relentless, unyielding search for her lost child is a mainstream historical fact woven into the very fabric of ancient Greek religious practice. The annual festivals honoring Demeter, like the Thesmophoria, directly referenced her mourning and search, reflecting a deep societal understanding of her pain. Demeter's despair deepens with each passing moment. Her divine essence, usually a source of immense power, and life begins to falter under the weight of her grief. You can sense it in the world around you. The leaves on the trees begin to curl and yellow prematurely. The streams seem to flow more sluggishly, and a coldness not of winter, but of profound sadness, starts to creep into the air. She's not just a goddess. She's the embodiment of fertility, and her emotional state directly impacts the very vitality of the earth. As her hope dwindles, so too does the promise of life itself. The world holds its breath, waiting for a resolution to her torment, unaware that the solution lies far, far beneath the surface. Demeter's desperate torch-lit wanderings continue, day blurring into night, and night into another fruitless day. You feel the weariness in the very air. She breathes a heavy, suffocating despair that starts to seep into the world around her. The leaves are not just yellowing now, they are falling crisp and dry, long before their time. The once verdant landscapes you pass through are becoming barren, the fields desolate. It's as if the world itself is holding its breath, mirroring the profound grief of its nurturing goddess. But even in the deepest despair, sometimes a flicker of hope, or at least a guiding hand, appears. As Demeter, exhausted and hollow-eyed, trudges through the ever-darkening landscape, a figure emerges from the encroaching shadows. This isn't a mortal, nor is it one of the Olympian gods who might offer grand pronouncements or swift action. This is Hecate. You probably know Hecate, or at least have heard whispers about her. She's the goddess of magic, witchcraft, crossroads, ghosts, and necromancy. Not exactly the kind of deity you invite over for a casual board game night, unless that board game involves summoning spirits and brewing potions. She's often depicted with 3 faces or 3 bodies overseeing different paths, embodying choices and liminal spaces. She's an ancient chthonic goddess, meaning she's connected to the earth and the underworld, predating many of the Olympians. Think of her as the wise, slightly spooky aunt who knows everything but tells you in riddles. Hecate approaches Demeter, her presence a curious blend of shadow and subtle luminescence. She doesn't offer comfort or platitudes. That's not her style. Instead, she offers something far more valuable in Demeter's desperate state: information, albeit cryptic. She has seen or heard something. Hecate often moves between worlds, the mortal, the divine, and the underworld, making her privy to knowledge that others miss. She's a bit like the ancient world's most reliable, if somewhat unsettling, informant. Oh, Lady of the harvest. Hecate might say, her voice like dry leaves rustling in the wind. I heard a cry, a maiden scream, as a dark chariot tore a path across the earth and into the depths. She doesn't name names, doesn't point fingers directly, but her words are enough. They confirm Demeter's worst fears, giving shape to the shapeless terror that has been gnawing at her soul. It's a chilling confirmation, yet paradoxically, it also provides a direction, a focus for her otherwise aimless grief. One quirky tidbit about Hecate: she is often associated with the torch. Not just any torch, but the kind used to illuminate dark paths, especially at night or at crossroads. In this myth, it's particularly fitting that she encounters Demeter, who is also carrying torches, having lit them from Mount Etna. It's almost like a shared symbol of seeking truth in darkness. Imagine two powerful goddesses, one consumed by grief, the other by ancient knowledge, meeting under the cloak of night, both illuminated by the flickering, dancing flames of their torches. It creates a powerful, almost cinematic image of divine despair meeting mysterious guidance. Hecate doesn't offer to go with Demeter right away. Instead, she directs her, perhaps saying, "Go to Helios, the all-seeing sun. He gazes upon all things, from the highest heavens to the deepest parts of the earth. He will know." It's a pragmatic piece of advice, pointing Demeter towards the one being whose very nature is omniscience, whose light penetrates every corner of the world. This moment of guidance from Hecate is a mainstream historical fact in various ancient accounts of the myth, underscoring her role as a diviner of hidden truths. Her involvement signifies that the mystery is too profound for mere mortals, requiring divine intervention and insight. The brief encounter with Hecate, though not immediately resolving anything, provides a crucial turning point. You can feel the shift in Demeter's energy. The aimless wandering gives way to a new, determined purpose. She still carries her grief, but now it's focused, aimed like an arrow towards a specific target, Helios. The knowledge that someone saw something, that there's a witness, ignites a new, fierce hope within her. It's like finding that one blurry security camera footage after days of fruitless searching. It might not tell you everything, but it tells you where to look next. Historians still argue whether Hecate's role in this myth is purely narrative, serving as a plot device to move Demeter's search forward, or if it reflects a deeper theological significance, perhaps illustrating the idea that even in times of profound despair, ancient chthonic powers can offer fragmented truths and guidance from the hidden corners of existence. She represents the liminal, the threshold between worlds, and who better to guide one grieving goddess to the truth about another's journey to the underworld. As Demeter turns her weary steps towards the east, towards where the sun is beginning to hint at its reluctant rise, you can almost hear the rustle of Hecate fading back into the shadows, her purpose fulfilled. She's the kind of character who appears, delivers a cryptic message, that sets the plot in motion and then disappears, leaving you to ponder the implications. And as Demeter presses on her torches, still burning fiercely, the lingering chill in the air reminds you that while a path has been illuminated, the truth, when it comes, might be a bitter pill to swallow. The journey to Helios promises clarity, but clarity isn't always comforting. Following Hecate's cryptic guidance, Demeter presses on her flaming torches, casting long dancing shadows before her. You can feel the new desperate resolve radiating from her, a stark contrast to her earlier aimless despair. Her eyes, though still red-rimmed from endless weeping, now hold a fierce determination. She marches towards the rising sun, the very source of all light and vision, believing that if anyone knows the truth, it will be Helios. Helios, the sun god, is not just a deity. He is the sun. He drives his magnificent fiery chariot across the sky each day from east to west, illuminating every corner of the world. He sees everything that happens, from the grand pronouncements of Zeus on Olympus to the smallest whisper in the deepest cave. He is essentially the ancient world's most comprehensive surveillance system, with 20/20 vision and no privacy settings. As Demeter approaches the eastern horizon, you feel the air growing warmer, brighter. The sky begins to blaze with the dawn, and then, emerging in a blinding flash of light, is Helios himself, just beginning his daily ascent. He's a majestic figure, radiating intense heat and pure, unadulterated light. Imagine standing before 1,000 suns, and you're getting close to the feeling of his divine presence. Demeter, usually so proud and self-possessed, approaches him with a humility born of profound sorrow. Her voice, though still hoarse, carries the weight of her suffering. "O glorious Helios," and she cries, "you who gaze upon all lands from the highest peaks to the deepest oceans, tell me, I beg you, what has become of my daughter Persephone? Where has she gone?" Her question hangs in the blazing air, heavy with unspoken dread. Helios, perched in his fiery chariot, looks down at the grieving goddess. He is a god of truth, and unlike some other deities who might delight in drama or obfuscation, he cannot lie. He sees all, and he did see. He witnessed the earth tearing open the dark chariot, and the terrified maiden being pulled into the abyss. You can almost feel his reluctance, a quiet sigh carried on the solar winds. It's never easy being the bearer of bad news, especially when the news involves one of your powerful peers. He pauses, perhaps calculating the repercussions, perhaps weighing the pain he's about to inflict. But his nature compels him to speak the truth, with a voice that resonates like the very light he embodies. He reveals the horrifying reality to Demeter. "Lady Demeter," he begins, "I saw your daughter Kor when she was snatched by Hades, your brother, the lord of the Underworld. He carried her down into his dark realm to make her his queen." The words hang in the air, each one a hammer blow to Demeter's heart. You can feel the shock ripple through her, deeper and more devastating than any physical wound. It's the confirmation of her deepest, most terrifying fear, delivered by the unimpeachable witness of the cosmos. All this time, she had been searching the surface world, while her daughter was held captive in the world beneath. It's like searching for your lost keys on the kitchen counter for hours, only to be told they're actually in your pocket. Except you know much, much worse. This revelation from Helios is a mainstream historical fact in the Persephone myth, a crucial turning point that shifts Demeter's despair from frantic searching to focused outrage. It transforms her grief from a general malaise into a specific burning anger directed at Hades and implicitly at Zeus, who must have sanctioned, or at least permitted, this abduction. Historians still argue whether Helios's initial reluctance to reveal the truth hints at a broader divine conspiracy among the male Olympians, or if it merely reflects the difficulty of delivering such devastating news. One quirky tidbit: some versions of the myth imply that Zeus himself had a hand in engineering this whole situation, perhaps even giving Hades permission to abduct Persephone. If true, Helios's reluctance would be even more understandable. He'd be betraying a confidence from the king of the gods. Imagine being put in that position. You're literally the eye of the world. You see everything, and sometimes what you see means you have to spill the tea on your boss. Tough gig. As Helios finishes speaking, Demeter stands frozen for a moment, absorbing the full horror of the truth. Her face, which had been contorted by fear and exhaustion, now hardens with a cold fury. The desperate mother gives way to the outraged goddess. The light of Helios, which minutes ago had offered hope of truth, now seems to burn with the intensity of her growing wrath. The realization that her daughter is not just lost, but stolen and held captive by her own brother is a betrayal that cuts deeper than anything she has ever known. You can sense the change in the atmosphere around her. The air crackles with suppressed power, and the gentle warmth of Helios's presence feels insufficient to thaw the icy rage now building in Demeter's heart. Her immediate reaction isn't despair anymore. It's a cold, calculated fury. The next steps she takes will not be those of a heartbroken mother searching, but of a wronged deity demanding justice, and the consequences for the world will be truly catastrophic. The stage is set for divine retribution, and you, standing witness, can already feel the chill that portends a season of profound suffering. The words of Helios echo in the air, a devastating pronouncement that rips through Demeter's last shred of fragile hope. You see the light drain from her eyes, replaced by a cold, glittering fury. Her body, which had been stooped with weariness, now seems to straighten, imbued with a terrible resolve. The grief hasn't vanished. It's merely transmuted, hardening into a resolve that spells doom for the unsuspecting world above. The knowledge that Hades, her own brother, and implicitly Zeus, her other brother, and king of the gods, were complicit in this abduction, ignites a divine rage unlike anything you've witnessed. Demeter turns away from Helios, the sun's blinding light now seeming to mock her pain. She doesn't scream, she doesn't weep, not anymore. Her reaction is far more profound, far more terrifying. She retreats from the company of the other gods, from the bright, bustling world of Olympus, and from the verdant, mortal lands she once cherished and nurtured. This isn't just a withdrawal, it's an act of divine protest, a cosmic hunger strike. She sheds her divine responsibilities, casting them aside like an unwanted cloak. You can almost see her hands unclench, letting go of the invisible threads that weave life into the earth. The energy that once flowed from her, bringing forth sprouts from seeds, plump fruit from blossoms, and golden grain from fertile soil, now retracts, drawing deep within her. It's as if a grand conductor has suddenly thrown down their baton, and the entire orchestra of nature simply stops playing. And the world, oh the world, begins to suffer immediately. You can feel it, the shift in the very fabric of existence. The fertile earth which just moments ago responded to your touch with warmth now feels cold, unyielding. The gentle breezes turn harsh, dry, carrying no moisture, no promise of rain. The vibrant greens of summer quickly fade to dull browns and grays, not with the gentle progression of autumn, but with a sudden shocking speed, like a time-lapse video gone horribly wrong. This devastating withdrawal of Demeter's favor is a mainstream historical fact, foundational to understanding the myth's explanation of the seasons. The first signs are subtle crops that were just beginning to swell with promise suddenly shrivel. Seeds freshly sown with hopes of abundant harvest refuse to germinate, lying dormant and lifeless in the parched soil. The rivers, once flowing freely, begin to dwindle, their banks exposed and cracked. The trees, their leaves already falling, twist into skeletal barren forms, their branches reaching like desperate fingers towards a sky that offers no succor. As Demeter's grief deepens, so too does the world's suffering. The air grows heavy with dust, and a suffocating stillness settles over the land. You hear no birdsong, no rustle of thriving life, only the mournful whisper of the wind through barren fields, the laughter of children, the chatter of markets, the hum of daily life. All these sounds are replaced by a growing silence punctuated only by the groans of hungry livestock and the rising lament of desperate mortals. It's a bit like trying to grow a garden when you've accidentally unplugged the sun and turned off the water. Things aren't going to end well. A quirky tidbit that adds to the bleakness: Demeter often disguised herself as an old woman during this period, wandering among mortals. Imagine the irony. The very goddess responsible for sustaining life now wandering unrecognized among those slowly starving, a living embodiment of their collective suffering. It's like the head chef of a 5-star restaurant suddenly showing up in the soup kitchen line, unrecognizable and just as hungry as everyone else. The famine spreads rapidly, relentless, and indiscriminate. No region is spared, no harvest reaped. The granaries empty, the fruit trees bear no fruit, the grapevines wither. Mortals, once thriving, grow gaunt and weak, their faces etched with hunger and despair. Animals, too, suffer, their cries of distress echoing across the barren plains. The very essence of life seems to be draining away molecule by painful molecule. Historians still argue whether the concept of Demeter's divine withdrawal and the subsequent famine reflects a deep-seated ancient Greek fear of agricultural collapse, which was a constant threat in a subsistence economy, or if it primarily serves as a powerful metaphor for the emotional desolation experienced by loss and the disruption of natural order. Perhaps it's both a very real fear expressed through a potent mythological narrative. The altars of the gods, usually laden with offerings of grain and fruit, become barren. No sacrifices are made, for there is nothing left to sacrifice. The smoke of incense, once rising in grateful plumes, vanishes. Mortals too desperate to worship simply pray for rain, for food, for anything to ease their suffering. But Demeter, lost in her own sorrow and rage, hears no prayers, heeds no pleas. Her divine attention is completely consumed by her daughter's absence, her fury at Hades, and the cosmic injustice of it all. She is an unstoppable force of maternal anguish, and the world is simply caught in her destructive wake. You can feel the bite of the wind, dry and chilling, tasting of dust and death. The vibrant living world you knew in Section 1 is now a desolate wasteland, a silent monument to a goddess's broken heart. And as the famine deepens, its tendrils reaching into every corner of the mortal realm, the ripple effect of Demeter's grief will finally begin to stir even the lofty, often oblivious gods of Olympus. For even they, after all, rely on the offerings of mortals, and starving mortals make for very poor worshippers. The global famine, born from Demeter's all-consuming grief and withdrawal, bites deeper now. You feel the sharp edges of hunger in the very air, a constant gnawing emptiness that seems to echo across the barren lands. The silence is profound, broken only by the mournful cries of suffering creatures and the hollow coughs of weakened mortals. The world you inhabit now is a harsh, unforgiving place, stripped bare of its former vibrancy, a stark testament to the goddess's broken heart. But as the suffering intensifies on earth, a new kind of unrest begins to brew, reaching even the lofty heights of Mount Olympus. Up there, in their gleaming halls of gold and marble, the other gods for a time had remained largely unconcerned. They were, after all, immortal, well-fed on ambrosia and nectar, and often quite detached from the daily struggles of mortals. Think of them as a group of perpetually vacationing billionaires, mostly unaware of a stock market crash until it starts affecting their personal yacht fuel prices. However, the relentless spread of the famine, the withering of crops, and the slow demise of humanity eventually begin to have a tangible impact even on their divine existence. Mortals, starving and desperate, no longer have the strength or the means to offer sacrifices. The temples, once overflowing with offerings of grain wine and freshly slaughtered animals, now stand empty, silent. The smoke of burnt offerings, which normally wafted up to Olympus, carrying the fragrant essence of piety and gratitude, has ceased entirely. You can almost picture it, the gods lounging on their celestial couches, suddenly noticing a distinct lack of divine perfume in the air. Zeus, the mighty king, perhaps idly wondering why his ambrosia tastes a little less sweet today, or why the usual divine gossip feels a bit flat. The lack of offerings isn't just an inconvenience, it's a direct threat to their power and prestige. Their divinity, while inherent, is also sustained by the worship and devotion of mortals. No mortals, no worship. No worship, and even a god starts feeling a little less godly. This vital reliance of the gods on mortal veneration, especially through sacrifices, is a mainstream historical fact in ancient Greek religion. So concern begins to ripple through the Olympian pantheon. Athena, wise and strategic, would perhaps be the first to truly grasp the gravity of the situation, foreseeing the long-term consequences. Hera, ever the queen, might grumble about the decline in quality of her worshippers. Poseidon might note the stagnant waters, a minor irritation, but indicative of a larger problem. One quirky tidbit is that the gods often complained about the smell of mortal cooking good cooking, that is for offerings, so perhaps the complete absence of that smell finally made them perk up their divine noses. Oh, finally, some peace and quiet. They might have thought only to realize the quiet meant no one left to worship us. Meetings would be held probably with a lot of dramatic pronouncements and finger-pointing. Demeter is being unreasonable, someone might declare. She cannot hold the entire world hostage for her personal grief. Another might exclaim, conveniently forgetting who enabled said grief in the first place. Historians still argue whether the Olympian gods' initial inaction and subsequent intervention truly reflect ancient Greek societal views on divine justice, or if it highlights the often self-serving nature of the gods within their mythological narratives. Did they care about humanity or just their own divine status? Zeus, as the ultimate authority, eventually realizes that this isn't just a family spat or a minor tantrum. This is a full-blown existential crisis for the divine order. The very lifeblood of their worship is drying up. The world is dying, and with it, their power diminishes. He would have sent emissaries, messengers, perhaps even other gods, down to Demeter, trying to reason with her. You can imagine their attempts, a formal summons, a gentle plea, perhaps even a stern command. But Demeter, consumed by her singular purpose, would have rebuffed them all. Her heart impenetrable, her resolve unyielding. Her answer, if any, would be simple and unwavering: "My daughter returns, or the world perishes." No amount of divine rhetoric, no amount of Olympian power could sway her. Her maternal grief was a force more potent than any thunderbolt Zeus could wield. It was a silent, devastating protest, a passive-aggressive act on a cosmic scale that was far more effective than any open rebellion. You can feel the frustration building on Olympus, the gods realizing they are caught between Demeter's unwavering sorrow and the impending annihilation of their mortal worshippers. The debates among the gods would grow more urgent, the atmosphere on Olympus thick with tension. Finally, recognizing the futility of persuasion and the catastrophic consequences of inaction, Zeus understands that a more direct and undeniably difficult solution is required. The key to ending the famine, to restoring life to the world, lies not with Demeter, but with the cause of her suffering, Hades. He must intervene. He must command his brother, the Dark Lord of the Underworld, to release Persephone. And you, watching this cosmic drama unfold, can feel a flicker of hope amidst the desolation, a tiny ember in the vast cold emptiness, as the wheels of divine justice, however belatedly, finally begin to turn. The fate of the world hangs on this crucial, difficult decision by the king of the gods. The mounting pressure on Olympus, the sight of the dying world below, and the undeniable truth of their own diminishing power, finally force Zeus's hand. You feel the shift in the celestial winds, a ripple of momentous decision emanating from the very throne of the King of the gods. The time for deliberation, for sending fruitless emissaries to a grief-stricken Demeter, is over. Action, however difficult, is now paramount. Zeus, the mighty ruler of the cosmos, understands that only a direct command from him, the ultimate authority, stands a chance of resolving this dire situation. He must confront his reclusive, formidable brother. He must demand the release of Persephone. This pivotal decision by Zeus to intervene directly in the Persephone myth is a mainstream historical fact, showcasing his ultimate authority among the gods. To carry out such a sensitive and weighty message, Zeus chooses his most trusted and swiftest messenger, Hermes. You remember Hermes, right? The nimble, winged, sandal-wearing god of travelers, merchants, and thieves, but also the divine herald, the one who effortlessly traverses all realms, Olympus, the mortal world, and even the shadowy depths of the underworld. He's the ideal candidate, quick, diplomatic, when he wants to be, and capable of navigating the complex politics of the divine family, even with someone as unyielding as Hades. It's like sending your best, most charming troubleshooter to deal with a notoriously difficult client. Zeus summons Hermes, his voice resonating with divine authority, no doubt accompanied by a flash of lightning or a rumble of thunder just to emphasize the gravity of the mission. "Go, Hermes," he might command, "descend into the underworld, to the realm of Hades. Tell him that he must release Persephone. Tell him that her mother's grief is destroying the world, and that the offerings to the gods have ceased. This cannot continue." There is an urgency in Zeus's tone, a rare crack in his usual stoic demeanor, betraying his deep concern for the impending collapse of the world he oversees. Hermes, ever efficient, would not delay. You can almost see him donning his winged sandals, his caduceus staff glinting a whirlwind of motion as he prepares for his journey to the realm below. His task is unenviable, to deliver an ultimatum to a god who rarely accepts commands from anyone, let alone his Olympian kin. This isn't just a simple delivery, it's a delicate diplomatic mission into hostile territory. One quirky tidbit about this journey, Hermes being the god of boundaries and transitions, is uniquely suited for traversing the veil between life and death. He's not just a messenger, he's a psychopomp, guiding souls to the underworld. So this journey isn't just a trip, it's a symbolic passage into the very domain he normally helps guide others to, adding another layer of significance to his role. He's essentially crossing his own professional boundaries, literally and figuratively. As Hermes sets off, you can feel the air around you, which has been heavy with the famine's desolation, stirring with a faint, almost imperceptible tremor of anticipation. Hope, however fragile, begins to stir. If Zeus commands it, perhaps even Hades, for all his stubbornness, will listen. But the underworld is a place of shadows and rules, and Hades is a king who governs by strictures, not sentimentality. Historians still argue whether Zeus's intervention here is a genuine act of concern for humanity or simply a pragmatic move to restore the flow of sacrifices essential for the gods' power. Was it a moment of compassion or merely a savvy political decision to prevent a complete collapse of his divine empire? This debate highlights the often anthropomorphic nature of the Greek gods, who, despite their powers, frequently exhibit very human motivations and flaws. You watch as Hermes descends his form, blurring, as he plunges into the earth following the very path Hades created during the abduction. The silence above is broken only by the distant, mournful wind. But below, a confrontation is brewing, one that will determine the fate of the world. The journey into the underworld itself is fraught with symbolic meaning. It is a descent into the unknown, into the realm of the dead, a place from which few ever return. The tension builds as Hermes nears his destination. Will Hades comply? Will the Lord of the dead release his queen, the one he so desperately desired? Or will he defy Zeus, risking further divine wrath and the complete annihilation of the mortal world? The stakes are unimaginably high. You hold your breath, figuratively speaking, as the messenger of the gods carries the fate of all life into the grim, silent halls of the underworld, hoping that the king of the dead will bend to the will of Olympus, and that a glimmer of spring might yet return to the barren earth. The fate of the seasons, and indeed of all existence, now rests on the outcome of this extraordinary, divine negotiation. As Hermes descends into the somber depths, you feel the familiar, oppressive chill of the underworld begin to seep into the air around you. But even as the weight of Hades' realm presses in, there's a vital, heartbreaking piece of the Persephone story that unfolded before Hermes even set foot in this grim domain. This is the moment, the critical turning point that unknowingly sealed Persephone's fate, binding her to the realm of shadows for a portion of every year, the eating of the pomegranate seed. Imagine Persephone, a captive in the desolate, sunless halls of Hades. Days stretch into weeks, perhaps months. She's surrounded by the silent, shifting shades of the dead, by the grim architecture of the underworld, and by the constant, overwhelming presence of Hades himself. He treats her not as a prisoner, but as his queen, offering her all the dark splendors of his realm. Jewels mined from the deepest veins of the earth, grand echoing palaces, and the unspoken promise of immense power. But what good are all these riches when your heart aches for sunlight, for wildflowers, for the laughter of your mother, Persephone? We are told refused all food and drink offered to her by Hades. She languished, starved for the warmth and light of the world above her spirit, slowly dimming in the oppressive gloom. This refusal was not just an act of defiance. It was a desperate, almost primal yearning for freedom, a way to ensure her eventual return to the sunlit world. She knew, perhaps instinctively, or perhaps through divine lore, that to consume anything in the underworld was to bind oneself to it. It's like being trapped in a super-exclusive underground VIP lounge. If you accept the complimentary caviar, you might never get to leave. But Hades, for all his stoic, unyielding nature, was cunning. He was lonely, desperately wanting a queen, and he knew how the ancient laws of fate worked. He knew that if she ate anything from his domain, she would be tethered to it. So he offers her a pomegranate, a fruit often associated with fertility and death. In ancient cultures, its blood-red seeds glistening temptingly in the dim light of his realm. You can picture the scene, the rich, dark red of the pomegranate, a startling splash of color in the monochrome gloom of the underworld. Persephone, perhaps driven by gnawing hunger after her prolonged fast, or perhaps by a moment of weakness, curiosity, or even a subtle manipulative persuasion from Hades, finally succumbs. She plucks a single pomegranate, breaks it open, and eats. But she doesn't devour the whole thing. No, the crucial, fateful act is that she eats 6 seeds. That's right, just 6 tiny ruby-red seeds. A mere mouthful, almost insignificant. But in the mythological framework, these 6 seeds become the unbreakable chain that binds her. This specific act of eating the pomegranate seeds and the number of seeds consumed is a mainstream historical fact, central to the myth's explanation of the seasons. It's the loophole, the cosmic fine print that Hades exploited to ensure Persephone would never fully escape his grasp. Historians still argue whether the pomegranate, with its numerous seeds, was chosen specifically to symbolize fertility and death, or if its rich blood-like color held a deeper, more chthonic significance in ancient Greek symbolism. One quirky tidbit: some versions of the myth vary the number of seeds Persephone ate. Some say 3, some say 4, but 6 is the most common and widely accepted number, directly correlating to the number of months she would spend in the underworld. It's a testament to how specific and precise ancient Greek storytelling could be, even when dealing with divine appetites and supernatural snacks. Imagine if your entire future hinged on how many M&Ms you ate from a bowl. The stakes are truly enormous. The moment she swallowed those seeds, a subtle, irreversible change occurred within Persephone. She became, in that instant, irrevocably tied to the underworld. She gained a new understanding, a new kind of power, perhaps even a new depth to her own being. She was no longer just Kor, the innocent maiden. She was becoming Persephone, the queen of the dead, a ruler of shades wise in the ways of darkness and mystery. This is the situation as Hermes arrives, making his way through the silent, shadowy corridors of Hades's palace. The negotiation, the command from Zeus, will happen in the immediate aftermath of this fateful consumption. The seeds are already eaten, the cosmic contract implicitly signed. You can feel the tension in the air, a silent, unspoken acknowledgement of the irrevocable choice Persephone has made, a choice that will forever alter her existence and, consequently, the cycles of the world above. Hermes is about to deliver a message of hope, but the fine print written in the juice of a pomegranate has already been enacted, ensuring that hope will always be tempered by a recurring sorrow. The air in the underworld, already thick with the weight of departed souls, now carries a faint shimmer, a disturbance caused by the swift arrival of Hermes. You sense his presence before you fully perceive it, a momentary flicker of light against the oppressive gloom, a whisper of the vibrant world above permeating this realm of eternal twilight. He has just descended into the silent, echoing halls of Hades's domain, carrying Zeus's urgent command. You can almost hear the soft, rhythmic thud of his winged sandals as he traverses the desolate landscapes of the dead, perhaps crossing the Styx, where Charon the ferryman might offer a curt nod of recognition, or navigating past the three-headed dog, Cerberus, who might offer a low rumbling growl of warning. Hermes, ever resourceful and known for his charm, would likely find a way to soothe the beast, perhaps with a quick scratch behind the ears or a well-placed soothing word. This journey through the underworld is a mainstream historical fact, in the myth, a necessary narrative step to bridge the gap between the living and the dead. His destination is the grim yet undeniably regal palace of Hades. Imagine a fortress carved from obsidian, adorned with precious unearthly gems that glow with their own dim, internal light. It's a place of immense power, silent and imposing, far from the boisterous, sun-drenched halls of Olympus. Hades, the lord of this desolate kingdom, is found upon his throne, undoubtedly with Persephone by his side, perhaps now even wearing a crown of dark glittering jewels, a stark contrast to her once simple floral garlands. As Hermes approaches, you can feel the tension in the air. Hades is a god of few words and even fewer compromises. He rules by ancient law and unyielding will. For someone to intrude upon his domain, especially with a demand, is a rare and significant event. You can almost see Hades's eyes, dark and piercing, narrowing slightly as Hermes, the messenger of the bright world, steps into his somber presence. Hermes, ever the diplomat, delivers Zeus's message with formal deference, but with an underlying urgency that cannot be mistaken. He conveys the dire state of the world above the barren fields, the starving mortals, the cessation of offerings, and the very real threat to the Olympian order if Demeter's grief continues unchecked. He explains Zeus's command. Persephone must be returned, a quirky tidbit that adds to the drama. Hades, even when confronted with a direct order from Zeus, doesn't immediately concede. He might feign ignorance of the world's suffering, or perhaps he argues the legality of his marriage, pointing out that Persephone is now his queen. His arguments would be rooted in the ancient laws of host and guest of consumption, of what binds a soul to a realm. It's a cosmic game of legal chess with the fate of the world as the board. But Hermes, ever shrewd, also knows the crucial detail of the pomegranate seeds. He knows that Persephone has consumed food from the underworld, however little. This is the moment where the earlier seemingly insignificant act of eating those 6 seeds becomes the central point of negotiation, the unassailable truth that complicates everything. Historians still argue whether Hades' knowledge of the fruit of the underworld rule was cunning foresight or a fortunate coincidence for him, adding a layer of moral ambiguity to his character. Was he merely upholding an ancient law or actively manipulating it to his advantage? So the negotiation begins. Hermes, representing Zeus, demands Persephone's release. Hades, however, with a grim satisfaction, reveals that Persephone has eaten from his realm, specifically mentioning the pomegranate seeds. This act, he argues, irrevocably binds her to him. The ancient laws are clear. One who consumes the food of the underworld cannot fully leave it. It's a bit like ordering takeout from a ghost restaurant. Once you take a bite, you're on their eternal mailing list. The stalemate is broken only by compromise. After much divine deliberation, possibly with Hermes appealing to Hades' sense of duty, to the wider divine order, or perhaps subtly implying a bigger, more annoying divine war. If he doesn't comply, an agreement is reached. This agreement isn't about Persephone staying or leaving permanently. It's about division. Persephone will return to her mother, to the sunlit world, for a portion of the year. But because she consumed the 6 pomegranate seeds, she must also return to Hades, to his dark kingdom, for an equal number of months each year. It's a classic compromise, a diplomatic solution to a profound celestial crisis. 6 seeds, 6 months. A simple, elegant, and heartbreaking solution that satisfied the letter of the law while acknowledging the desperate pleas of the world above. You feel the weight of this decision. It means that the world will never again experience perpetual spring. It means that joy will always be tempered by sorrow and abundance by scarcity. But it also means that life, however cyclical and sometimes harsh, will endure. Hermes, having successfully completed his arduous mission, now turns to Persephone. Her face, which might have shown a flicker of resignation, perhaps now holds a touch of bittersweet relief. She is returning, but not entirely. She is free, but also forever bound. The journey back to the surface will be one of anticipation, but also of an understanding that her life, and indeed the world's, has irrevocably changed. With the agreement struck, a delicate balance forged between divine law and desperate need. Hermes prepares to escort Persephone back to the sunlit world. You feel a tremor of anticipation, a faint, almost forgotten stirring of hope that begins to replace the heavy gloom of the underworld. Persephone, no longer a mere maiden, but now the queen of the dead, steps forward, her dark robes perhaps rustling with a new dignity, a quiet power. She has endured the darkness, tasted its forbidden fruit, and emerged forever changed. The journey upwards, guided by Hermes, would be a reversal of her terrifying descent. Instead of plunging into the abyss, you imagine her ascending slowly at first, then with increasing speed as the light of the upper world grows stronger. The oppressive silence of the underworld gives way to a faint, distant hum, the sounds of life, however muted by famine drawing closer. The chill begins to recede, replaced by a subtle, almost forgotten warmth. It's like emerging from a long, dark tunnel into the glorious light of a clear day. As she ascends, the world above is still suffering under the blight of Demeter's grief. Fields are barren, rivers are parched, and the air is thick with dust and despair. Yet as Persephone draws nearer to the surface, a subtle, almost imperceptible shift occurs. A single stubborn sprout might push through the dry earth. A dormant bud might swell, hinting at green. It's not an instant explosion of life, but a faint, trembling promise. This gradual return of life, tied to Persephone's ascent, is a mainstream historical fact in the mythological explanation of the seasons. Finally, the moment arrives. Persephone breaches the surface, stepping back into the light of the sun. You can almost feel the collective sigh of relief from the parched earth. And then, there is Demeter. You remember Demeter, right? Driven mad with grief, relentlessly searching, then retreating into a world-destroying sorrow. Now, as Persephone emerges, you witness a transformation. Demeter, who had withered with the earth, suddenly radiates pure, unadulterated joy. It's a joy so profound, it seems to crack the very air, chasing away the lingering shadows of famine and despair. She rushes forward, her arms outstretched, her voice once hoarse with weeping, now ringing with unspeakable happiness. The reunion is everything a mother's heart could desire. Persephone, perhaps a little more subdued, a little wiser for her ordeal, falls into her mother's embrace. You can almost feel the warmth of that hug, the sheer relief, the years of separation. Though it was only months, it must have felt like an eternity, melting away in that single profound moment. It's a deeply emotional scene, a testament to the enduring power of maternal love, a sight that must have brought a tear to the eye of even the most hardened Olympian. One quirky tidbit about this reunion: some accounts describe Demeter's joy as so overwhelming that it instantly causes flowers to bloom around her, defying the blight, a spontaneous burst of life celebrating her daughter's return. Imagine it, a barren wasteland suddenly erupting in a kaleidoscope of color just from the sheer force of a goddess's happiness. It's like flipping a switch on a forgotten garden, and everything just bursts into bloom simultaneously. But even in this moment of intense joy, there is a shadow, a bittersweet tang to the triumph. The agreement is in place. Persephone is free, yes, but not entirely. She must return to Hades for those 6 months each year, a prisoner of the pomegranate seeds. When Demeter learns the full terms of the compromise, when she understands that her daughter will not be with her forever, the initial euphoria might fade, slightly replaced by a new, more complicated sadness. It's a joy, tinged with the knowledge of future separations, a light that knows it will be extinguished temporarily, again and again. Persephone herself is changed. She returns not as the innocent core, but as Persephone, queen of the underworld. Her time with Hades has given her a new perspective, perhaps a deeper understanding of the cycles of life and death. She carries the weight of her dual roles, a goddess of spring and a queen of shadows. This dual nature is a crucial element enriching her character and the myth itself. Historians still argue whether Persephone's transformation into queen of the underworld implies a shift in her own agency and power, or if she remains primarily a victim of circumstances highlighting themes of female power and subjugation in ancient Greek society. You can sense the subtle shift in Persephone's demeanor, a quiet strength that wasn't there before. She now knows the secrets of the dead, the mysteries of the deep earth. She is a bridge between worlds, a symbol of transition. And as she stands with her mother, bathed in the sunlight she so desperately missed, you can feel the fragile hope of spring beginning to awaken in the world around you. A direct consequence of this bittersweet partial return. The immediate crisis is averted, but the pattern for the seasons and for Persephone's annual journey has been set. The tumultuous reunion of Demeter and Persephone, a burst of joy tempered by the knowledge of future partings, signifies a momentous shift. You feel it in the very air, a cosmic sigh of relief, followed by a settling into a new, predictable rhythm. The immediate crisis of the global famine is averted, the desperate pleas of mortals answered, but at a cost. The world will never again know the unending, effortless bounty of perpetual spring. Instead, a new annual cycle dictated by Persephone's journey is now firmly established. This agreement, brokered by Zeus and delivered by Hermes, dictates that for the months Persephone spent in the underworld, having consumed the pomegranate seeds, she must return to Hades. For the rest of the year, she is free to reside in the sunlit world with her mother. The number of seeds, you recall, was 6, thus binding her to Hades for 6 months of every year. This annual division of Persephone's time is a mainstream historical fact, the central mechanism through which the ancient Greeks explained the changing seasons. So, as Persephone breathes the air of the upper world once more, and Demeter's joy causes life to cautiously re-emerge, the pattern for the coming millennia is set. Imagine the earth sighing, then slowly beginning to heal. Where barren dust lay tentative green shoots begin to push through. Rivers, once sluggish or dry, begin to swell with fresh water. The air, heavy with the scent of dust and death, gradually begins to carry the faint, sweet fragrance of new growth. For the initial period after Persephone's return, the world flourishes under Demeter's renewed divine favor. Her grief lifts, and with it, her blessings flow freely. This is the time of late spring and bountiful summer. You can almost feel the warmth spreading, the sun shining with newfound brilliance, nourishing every living thing. Fields that were desolate are now a vibrant tapestry of green, promising golden harvests. Fruit trees, once gnarled and barren, burst with blossoms, then heavy, ripe fruit. It's a period of lush abundance, a joyous explosion of life celebrating Persephone's presence. This initial flourishing, however, always carries an underlying awareness of the coming change. Persephone's return means life, but it also means the countdown has begun for her next departure. It's a bit like enjoying the last few weeks of a long summer holiday, knowing that school, or in this case the underworld, is just around the corner. You savor every moment, but the shadow of the inevitable looms. A quirky tidbit that reflects this duality in some ancient Greek traditions. Persephone wasn't just seen as the goddess of spring, but also as the formidable queen of the dead. She held power in both realms. When she was on earth, the land bloomed, but even then, there was an acknowledgement of her connection to the chthonic mysteries. She was not merely a victim. She was a ruler, possessing knowledge of both life and death. This dual nature made her a particularly potent and revered deity in various mystery cults. Historians still argue whether the myth of Persephone's annual journey was primarily an etiological myth, a story explaining a natural phenomenon. In this case, the seasons, or if it served a deeper spiritual purpose, reflecting ancient Greek beliefs about death, rebirth, and the cyclical nature of existence itself. Was it just a weather report or a profound theological statement? Likely it was both, weaving together the practicalities of agriculture with the profound mysteries of life and what lies beyond. As the months pass in joyous abundance, you witness the earth regaining its strength, its vitality fully restored under Demeter's watchful, happy eye. The laughter returns to mortal villages, the sounds of work and revelry fill the air, and the altars to the gods are once again piled high with grateful offerings. The world is vibrant, alive, a testament to the power of a mother's joy. But as the warmth of summer begins to wane and the days imperceptibly shorten, a subtle change starts to creep into the atmosphere. It's a familiar feeling, this gradual shift. The crispness in the air, the golden quality of the sunlight, the first hint of color in the leaves. These are the subtle harbingers of what is to come. For every beautiful bloom, for every golden grain, there is an unspoken agreement, an underlying contract with the Dark Lord below. Persephone's return is a celebration, but it's also a ticking clock, counting down to her inevitable departure. And as that moment draws near, the earth, sensing the impending shift, will slowly begin to dim its light, preparing itself for the somber beauty of autumn and the long, cold embrace of winter. The cycle, now firmly established, dictates that sorrow will always follow joy, and death will always precede rebirth. As the vibrant, abundant months of late spring and summer unfold a period of respite and celebration for the world, you become acutely aware of the subtle shifts in the atmosphere, the joyous vibrancy that erupted with Persephone's return slowly, almost imperceptibly, begins to soften. The days, though still warm, grow shorter, the golden light of midday taking on a richer, more slanted quality. This is the gentle, creeping onset of autumn, a season beautiful in its own right, but inextricably linked to the impending sorrow of Demeter. You notice the first leaves, perhaps a lone maple or oak, turning from verdant green to a deep burnished gold, then a fiery crimson. This isn't the sudden, blight-induced wilting of the famine. This is a gradual, graceful transformation, a natural undressing of the landscape. The air, once thick with humid warmth, develops a crisp edge, carrying the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. It's the scent of transition, of things slowly winding down. This natural process of autumn, linked to Persephone's departure, is a mainstream historical fact, foundational to the myth's explanatory power. Persephone herself would feel this change, this magnetic pull towards her other realm. As the days tick by, and the 6 months she spends in the upper world near their end, you can sense a quiet resignation settling upon her. She is a queen of 2 worlds, and her duties call her back to the domain of her husband, Hades. It's a bittersweet farewell, a necessary parting that ensures the continuation of the entire cycle. Imagine preparing for a long, unavoidable trip away from your favorite place, knowing you'll return, but feeling the pang of departure all the same. Demeter, too, feels the shift deep in her divine being. Her boundless joy, which fueled the lushness of summer, begins to wane. Her smile, once radiant, becomes tinged with a faint melancholy. She sees the golden leaves falling the shortening days and knows what they signify. Each crisp breath of autumnal air is a reminder that her daughter's time with her is drawing to a close. She's not experiencing the frantic despair of the initial abduction, but a profound, recurring sorrow, a seasonal grief that becomes an inherent part of the world's rhythm. Farmers in ancient Greece, and indeed throughout history, would recognize these signs. They would be harvesting the last of their crops, preserving food, and preparing for the lean months ahead. They understood that the bounty of summer was fleeting, and that hard work was necessary to survive the coming scarcity. This practical agricultural knowledge was deeply intertwined with the mythological explanation. The myth didn't just explain why crops died, but reinforced the necessity of their human efforts in preparing for nature's lean times. One quirky tidbit about this transition: some ancient beliefs held that during autumn, as Persephone prepared to descend the veil between the mortal world and the underworld, became thinner. This made it a time for honoring the dead, for remembering ancestors, and perhaps even for subtle communication with the spirits. It wasn't just about falling leaves. It was about a subtle shift in the cosmic architecture, a brief moment of porousness between realms. It's like the cosmic equivalent of a quiet, reflective holiday, where the boundaries blur a bit. As the leaves finally release their hold on the branches, fluttering down to carpet the ground in a mosaic of ochre and rust, Persephone prepares for her annual journey. This isn't an abduction anymore. It's a departure, a fulfillment of the sacred agreement. She knows the path, she knows the realm, and she knows she will return. But the parting is still painful for her mother. Historians still argue whether the cyclical nature of the Persephone myth, with its emphasis on death and rebirth, was influenced by broader ancient Greek philosophical concepts of cyclical time and the transmigration of souls. Was it merely a story about the seasons, or a profound reflection on the inevitability of change and renewal in all aspects of existence? The continuous rhythm of the myth suggests a deeper meaning than just agricultural explanation. You sense the finality of it. The chill wind whips through the skeletal trees, carrying the last vestiges of summer's warmth away. The sun, though still visible, feels distant, its rays weaker, less nourishing. The vibrant greens of abundance are replaced by the somber palette of decay and dormancy. And as the last leaves fall, signaling the full arrival of autumn, you know that Persephone has begun her descent, leaving the upper world to the sorrowful embrace of her mother's renewed grief. The world holds its breath, preparing for the long, cold slumber that is winter, a season directly born from the absence of its beloved queen of spring. As Persephone descends once more into the underworld, you feel the tangible shift in the upper world. The last vestiges of autumn's vibrant colors fade, leaving behind a stark landscape dominated by muted browns, grays, and the somber silhouettes of bare trees. The crisp air of autumn sharpens, biting with an icy intensity that signals the full arrival of winter. This isn't just a seasonal change. It's a profound manifestation of Demeter's renewed grief, a cosmic echo of her daughter's absence. Imagine the world pulling a heavy, muted blanket over itself, settling into a deep, cold slumber. The once fertile fields are now covered in a thin, brittle crust of frost, their life force withdrawn deep beneath the surface. Rivers and lakes, which once flowed freely or shimmered under the summer sun, grow sluggish, their surfaces beginning to skim with ice. The sky, often overcast and heavy, seems to press down upon the land, casting a perpetual gloom that mirrors the sorrow in Demeter's heart. Demeter, you recall, is the goddess of agriculture, the nurturer of all growing things. When Persephone is gone, her joy departs, and with it, her divine favor. Her grief, though no longer frantic, settles into a deep, pervasive melancholy that permeates every aspect of the natural world. She does not rage or frantically search as she did during the initial abduction. Instead, she mourns quietly, her sorrow manifesting as the barrenness and cold of winter. This direct link between Demeter's grief and the arrival of winter is a mainstream historical fact, the primary explanation for this season in ancient Greek mythology. You feel the biting cold in the air seeping into your very bones. The winds howl, raw and unforgiving, stripping away any remaining warmth. Snow may fall, blanketing the landscape in a stark white silence that reflects the absence of life and sound. Animal life retreats, either hibernating or seeking shelter from the harsh elements. The world becomes quiet, desolate, a place where survival is a constant struggle. Mortals, too, feel the brunt of this sorrowful season. They huddle by meager fires, relying on the stores they painstakingly gathered during the brief months of abundance. Life becomes a matter of enduring, of waiting for the return of warmth and growth. The lack of fresh produce, the scarcity of food, and the omnipresent cold serve as constant reminders of Persephone's absence and Demeter's sorrow. It's a bleak existence, a period of hardship and quiet resignation waiting for the promise of spring. One quirky tidbit about this period: during the deepest parts of winter, some ancient Greek rituals involved the burying of offerings or a symbolic planting of seeds representing the hope of rebirth, even in the face of death and dormancy. These rituals mirrored the underworld journey and the promise of Persephone's return, a human attempt to coax life back into the frozen earth. It's like sending out a hopeful little thinking of you card to the universe, trying to nudge things along. Historians still argue whether the severity of Demeter's annual mourning, leading to such a harsh winter, reflects the actual climatic conditions experienced by ancient Greeks, or if it exaggerates them to underscore the dramatic impact of divine emotion. Was Greek winter truly that harsh, or was the myth emphasizing the feeling of hardship and dependence on the goddess? It's a fascinating interplay between lived experience and mythological narrative. You watch as the days creep by, each one a testament to the enduring power of Demeter's grief. The world is a canvas of winter's desolation, a beautiful yet melancholy landscape. The starkness has its own silent majesty, but it is a majesty born of absence of longing. The trees, stripped bare, stand like silent sentinels, awaiting the return of their verdant robes. The ground, hard and frozen, holds the dormant seeds of future life, waiting for the warmth of reunion. And through it all, you sense Demeter somewhere in the upper world, perhaps secluded in a temple, perhaps simply wandering the frozen fields, her heart aching for her daughter. Her presence, or rather her sorrowful withdrawal of benevolent presence, is the very force that molds this season. It is a period of rest, of dormancy, of preparation, but it is also a period of profound longing, a quiet vigil for the return of spring, and with it, the return of Persephone, the beloved queen of both worlds. The world endures knowing that this cold, silent period is temporary, a necessary precursor to the explosion of life that will inevitably follow. While the upper world endures the desolate embrace of winter, cloaked in Demeter's sorrow, your perspective shifts, and you are drawn into the silent, regal domain beneath the earth. Here, in the shadowy depths, life continues, albeit in a vastly different form. This is the realm of Hades, and this is where Persephone spends her 6 months as its queen. Imagine a kingdom, vast and echoing, not dark in the sense of absolute blackness, but rather perpetually in twilight, illuminated by the faint glow of subterranean rivers and the strange luminescence of minerals. It is a world of silent shades, the departed souls of mortals who move like whispers and shadows. The air is still heavy with an ancient quietude broken only by the occasional clatter of Hades' chariot or the distant baying of Cerberus. Persephone, no longer, the terrified maiden sits on a throne beside Hades, a formidable figure in her own right. Her beauty, once radiant with the light of spring, now possesses a deeper, more somber allure, a wisdom born of her time among the dead. She wears a crown, perhaps fashioned from jet and dark glittering gems, a stark contrast to the wild flowers she once gathered. She is queen of the underworld, a mainstream historical fact in her mythology, a ruler with dominion over the deceased and an understanding of the profound mysteries of existence and non-existence. Her duties here are not those of a grieving captive, but of a sovereign. She oversees the souls of the dead, perhaps judging them, perhaps simply ensuring order in this vast, somber realm. She acts as an intermediary, a voice of compassion in a domain otherwise governed by unyielding law. You might imagine her listening to the pleas of desperate shades, or perhaps calmly advising Hades on matters of his kingdom. She moves through the silent throngs of the deceased with a quiet dignity, a blend of power and melancholy. Hades, for his part, is not the raging abductor you first witnessed. In his own realm, he is a stern but just ruler, often depicted as a figure of grim majesty. He cherishes Persephone, not with the passionate fire of Zeus or Poseidon, but with a deep, possessive love. Their relationship in the underworld, while born of abduction, evolves into a complex partnership. He grants her immense authority, sharing his throne and his dominion. It's a bit like a highly introverted couple who manage a vast, quiet, but incredibly important cosmic business together. A quirky tidbit about Persephone's time in the underworld. Some mystery cults, particularly the Orphic mysteries, viewed Persephone not just as Hades' queen, but as a crucial figure in the cycles of reincarnation and spiritual purification. She was seen as a merciful goddess who could intercede for deserving souls, offering them a chance at a better afterlife. This paints a picture of her as more than just a grieving or resigned queen, but as a goddess with significant power and influence over the ultimate fate of mortals. Her days are structured by the somber rhythms of the underworld. No sunrise, no sunset, just the eternal twilight. No growing plants, no chirping birds, just the silent rustle of dead leaves and the murmurs of passing spirits. Yet she is not idle. Her wisdom deepens, her understanding of cosmic balance expands. She becomes privy to secrets that no other Olympian truly comprehends, knowledge of death, rebirth, and the profound interconnectedness of all things. Historians still argue whether Persephone's acceptance of her role as queen of the underworld represents a form of agency and growth, transforming her from victim to powerful deity, or if it symbolizes the inevitable acceptance of one's fate and the integration of dark experiences into one's being. Does she wield power, or is she merely resigned to her position? This nuanced debate reflects the complexity of interpreting mythological narratives. You sense the quiet power she commands, the silent respect she elicits from the shades, and even from Hades himself. Her presence brings a subtle, almost imperceptible order to the vast chaos of death. She is the bridge, the connection, the reminder of life, even in the realm of the departed. And though the upper world mourns her absence, here in the depths, She reigns a queen of unique authority, patiently awaiting the time when the pull of the surface and the cry of her mother will draw her back into the light. This 6-month sojourn in the underworld is not a period of imprisonment, but of dual sovereignty, a necessary balance in the great cosmic dance that dictates the very seasons of existence. As the long, desolate months of winter stretch on in the upper world, characterized by Demeter's profound sorrow, a subtle shift begins to occur, almost imperceptible at first. While Persephone reigns as queen in the underworld, you, as an observer, feel the faintest stirring of change in the frozen world around you. This is the delicate nascent phase where the world begins to hint at the impending return of life, the quiet promise of spring long before any obvious green shoots appear. Imagine the deepest part of winter. The ground is frozen solid. The trees are bare skeletons against a gray sky, and the silence is thick, broken only by the whistling wind. Yet, even in this profound dormancy, something stirs. You might notice the days infinitesimally begin to lengthen. The sun, though still weak, lingers a moment longer on the horizon. The light, though still cold, takes on a subtly brighter hue, hinting at a distant warmth. It's like feeling a barely perceptible vibration in the air before a large train arrives. You know something is coming, even if you can't quite see it yet. This delicate foreshadowing is directly tied to the nearing end of Persephone's 6-month reign in the underworld. As her time with Hades draws to a close, a cosmic anticipation ripples through the fabric of existence. Demeter, though still shrouded in grief, might feel a flicker of hope, a stirring in her divine essence that whispers of her daughter's imminent return. It's a feeling beyond conscious thought, a maternal instinct tied to the very rhythms of the earth. You might hear a faint, almost imagined melody on the wind, a whisper of growth beneath the frozen soil. The dormant seeds, nestled deep within the earth, begin to sense the approach of their nurturing goddess. They don't sprout yet, but their hard casings soften their tiny embryos, prepare to awaken. It's a period of anticipation, of quiet preparation in the natural world. This subtle internal stirring of life, preceding obvious spring, is a mainstream historical fact, observed and understood by ancient agricultural societies. They knew the deep winter was necessary, but they also recognized the tiny harbingers of its end. One quirky tidbit about this period: in some folk traditions, inspired by the myth, people might engage in early symbolic acts of planting, even indoors, to coax spring forth. Or they might tell stories of Demeter's fleeting smiles as the days lengthen, bringing just enough warmth for a single snowdrop to emerge. It's like sending out a little cosmic "come on already" signal, trying to speed up the divine schedule with human hope. This period also reflects the very nature of cyclical existence, a concept deeply ingrained in ancient Greek thought. The darkest hour is just before the dawn. The coldest part of winter contains the promise of renewal. The myth, through Persephone's annual journey, beautifully illustrates this enduring truth that even in moments of profound absence and desolation, the seeds of rebirth are always present, waiting for their moment to break free. Historians still argue whether the Greek understanding of cyclical time, where events recur and seasons return, shaped their myths like Persephone's, or if the myths themselves helped to solidify this philosophical concept in their worldview. As the days crawl towards the pivotal moment of Persephone's ascent, you notice tiny, almost microscopic signs. Perhaps a fragile, pale green shoot barely pokes through a patch of melted snow, only to be quickly covered again. Or a bird confused by a momentary warmth might offer a single tentative chirp. These are not signs of full spring, but whispers, promises, echoes of the vibrancy that is about to return. The world holds its breath just as Demeter holds hers, awaiting the reunion. The very air seems charged with a quiet energy, a building anticipation for the moment when the queen of the underworld will once again step into the light, bringing with her the unfurling beauty of the natural world. This transition from silent dormancy to burgeoning life is the fragile link, the crucial bridge between the sorrow of winter and the explosive joy of spring. You can almost feel the earth vibrating with contained energy, ready to burst forth in a spectacular display of rebirth. After the quiet, anticipatory whispers of late winter, the world finally sighs a deep collective breath that heralds the arrival of a transformative moment. You feel it as a rush of warmth, a sudden softening of the air, and a vibrant surge of energy that pulses through the very ground beneath your feet. This is it, the glorious, breathtaking return of Persephone to the upper world, and with her, the explosive, vibrant rebirth of spring. Imagine the sudden dramatic shift. One day the landscape is stark and muted, perhaps still dusted with snow or covered in a thin, cold rain. The next, a vibrant green begins to unfurl with astonishing speed. Trees, seemingly dead for months, burst forth with tender, bright green leaves, so fresh they almost shimmer. Flowers, from tiny crocuses, bravely poking through lingering patches of snow, to cheerful daffodils and fragrant hyacinths, erupt in a riot of color, painting the landscape with astonishing speed. It's like someone suddenly hitting the fast-forward button on nature after a long, slow rewind. This immediate dramatic blossoming is a direct result of Persephone's re-emergence. You can almost feel her essence radiating through the world, a wave of life and vitality spreading outwards from the point where she steps back into the sunlight. Her presence literally awakens the dormant earth, coaxing life from slumber. The chilling winds of winter recede, replaced by gentle, fragrant breezes that carry the scent of blossoms and freshly turned earth. The sun, once distant and weak, now shines with a renewed warmth and brilliance, its rays invigorating every living thing. This direct correlation between Persephone's return and the arrival of spring is a mainstream historical fact, the core explanation for the season in ancient Greek mythology. Demeter, the grieving mother, is transformed. Her face, which had been etched with sorrow throughout the winter months, softens her eyes, filling with a profound, radiant joy. Her divine power, which she had withheld in mourning, now flows forth unchecked, blessing every plant, every field, every living creature. You can practically see the energy emanating from her, bringing growth and abundance wherever she gazes. It's a moment of pure, unadulterated happiness, a mother reunited with her cherished child, and the entire world rejoices with them. The sounds of spring fill the air, the cheerful chirping of birds returning from their winter migrations, the gentle hum of bees busy among the new blossoms, the distant bleating of lambs in freshly green pastures. The silence of winter is shattered by the vibrant symphony of life reawakening. Mortals emerge from their homes, their faces lifted to the sun, their hearts filled with relief and gratitude. They begin to sow their fields knowing that Demeter's blessing will ensure a bountiful harvest. One quirky tidbit: some ancient Greek rituals for spring, such as those associated with the Eleusinian mysteries, involved joyous processions and offerings of newly sprouted grains, directly celebrating Persephone's return and Demeter's renewed benevolence. Imagine a community-wide celebration, a collective sigh of relief and burst of happiness after enduring the long, cold winter, all centered around the return of this one goddess. It's truly a festival of life. Persephone herself, though still bearing the quiet wisdom of her time in the underworld, once again embodies the vibrant essence of spring. She moves through the blossoming fields, perhaps with a touch more grace, a deeper understanding than the innocent core of old. She is both the youthful maiden and the solemn queen, a symbol of life inextricably linked with death, reminding us that even from the deepest shadows, beauty and new beginnings can emerge. Historians still argue whether the exuberant portrayal of spring's rebirth in the myth reflects the real anticipation and relief experienced by an agricultural society after harsh winters, or if it elevates the goddess's power to an almost unbelievable degree, serving as a powerful metaphorical representation of spiritual renewal after periods of hardship. Is it realistic or hyper-mythological? Perhaps it is both a perfect blend of human experience and divine drama. As you stand amidst the explosion of spring, feeling the warm sun on your face and breathing in the heady scent of countless flowers, you understand the profound significance of this moment. It is a promise fulfilled, a cycle completed, a testament to the enduring power of nature and the unbreakable bond between a mother and her daughter. The sorrow of winter is replaced by the boundless joy of rebirth, and the world thrives once more, basking in the light of Persephone's return. This vibrant season, however, also serves as a reminder that this joy, too, is part of a larger cycle, and that the wheel will inevitably turn again, leading back to the autumn and winter of her next departure. With Persephone safely back in the upper world, having sparked the glorious explosion of spring, you now witness the extended period of Demeter's joyful reign. Her happiness, once shrouded in the bleakness of winter, unfurls across the landscape, manifesting as a period of profound abundance and vibrant growth that stretches through spring into the height of summer. This isn't just a fleeting moment of relief, it's a sustained outpouring of divine blessing. Imagine the land under her watchful, benevolent eye. Every field becomes a testament to her renewed joy. The tender green shoots of spring quickly mature into lush, swaying fields of golden grain ready for harvest. The fruit trees, laden with blossoms just weeks before, now groan under the weight of ripening apples, figs, and olives. The grapevines, once gnarled and dormant, now burst with heavy clusters of grapes, plump and bursting with juice. You can almost taste the sweetness in the air, a heady mix of ripening fruit and fertile earth. Demeter, radiant and content, moves through these bountiful landscapes, her presence literally invigorating every aspect of nature. She is the embodiment of fertility and growth, and with Persephone by her side, her heart is full, allowing her to pour forth her divine energy without restraint. It's like having a master gardener whose mood directly affects the entire ecosystem, and right now, she's utterly delighted. This sustained period of flourishing, directly attributed to Demeter's joy, is a mainstream historical fact in the mythological understanding of the Greek agricultural year. The ancient Greeks, whose lives were intrinsically linked to the cycles of agriculture, would have observed this period with immense gratitude and relief. Their prosperity, their very survival, depended on Demeter's favor. The annual festivals honoring her, like the Eleusinian mysteries, which we briefly touched upon, often culminated in joyous celebrations of the harvest, symbolizing the bounty she bestowed upon them. These were not just religious rites, they were celebrations of life itself, of survival, of the fundamental relationship between humanity and the earth. You see the bustling activity in the villages, farmers working their fields with renewed vigor, their faces tanned by the sun, their voices light with song. The sounds of threshing grain, of olives being pressed, of grapes being crushed for wine, fill the air. Children play freely in the warm sunlight, their laughter echoing across fertile valleys. The marketplaces overflow with fresh produce. The granaries are filled to bursting, and the aroma of baking bread is everywhere. It's a period of feasting, of celebration, of feeling truly alive and secure in the natural world. One quirky tidbit is how the very concept of plenty or abundance in ancient Greek thought was so deeply connected to Demeter. Her name itself, often translated as Mother Earth or Barley Mother, emphasizes her role as the bringer of grain. So when people spoke of a good harvest, they were in essence speaking of Demeter's smile, a direct manifestation of her happiness and generosity. Imagine thinking that your next meal literally came from a goddess being in a good mood, quite a motivation to keep her happy, right? During this period, the altars of the gods are once again piled high with grateful offerings. The smoke of sacrifices rises in fragrant plumes to Olympus, carrying the thanks of a thriving humanity. The gods, in turn, are content, their power renewed by the worship and devotion of their well-fed subjects. The cosmic balance is restored, at least for a time. Historians still argue whether the agricultural focus of Demeter's cult reflects a society deeply reliant on farming, where the rhythm of seasons dictated life, or if the myth itself shaped how they perceived and interacted with their natural environment, reinforcing their dependence on divine favor. You stand amidst this scene of vibrant life and abundance, feeling the warmth of the sun and the rich, earthy smell of growth. It is a period of peak energy, of effortless generosity from the land. Persephone, too, contributes to this vibrancy, her presence amplifying her mother's benevolent power. She represents the flourishing youth of the growing season before the inevitable quiet descent. But even in this peak of summer, as the sun beats down and the fields are heavy with grain, there is always the subtle unspoken awareness that this period of boundless joy is finite. The knowledge of the cycle of the coming departure hovers like a distant cloud on a clear horizon, reminding you that even the most abundant joy is temporary, and the wheel of the seasons will inevitably turn again. Having witnessed the full cyclical drama of Persephone's annual journey from abduction and descent to desperate search, bitter compromise, and glorious return, you now stand in a place of deeper understanding. This isn't just a quaint ancient story. It's a myth that profoundly shaped the worldview of the ancient Greeks, permeating their culture, religion, and even their daily lives. The enduring power of the Persephone myth lies in its ability to explain the inexplicable, to imbue the mundane with divine significance, and to offer comfort in the face of universal truths. Imagine growing up in ancient Greece, your life intricately tied to the rhythm of the seasons, the success of your crops, the health of your family. Your very survival depended on the benevolence of nature. Before modern science, before meteorology, how did one explain the cold, barren months of winter followed by the miraculous rebirth of spring? The Persephone myth provided that answer, a vivid emotional narrative that resonated deeply. It wasn't just a theory. It was a divine drama unfolding above and below the earth, directly impacting your existence. This explanatory power, linking divine actions to natural phenomena, is a mainstream historical fact central to Greek mythology. The myth offered more than just an agricultural explanation. It provided a powerful framework for understanding life, death, and rebirth. Persephone's journey to the underworld, wasn't just a physical descent, it was a symbolic death, a period of darkness and transformation. Her return was a rebirth, a triumphant emergence into light and life. This cyclical pattern mirrored human experience, the cycle of life and death, the inevitable periods of sorrow, followed by hope and renewal. It offered a sense of order to the seemingly chaotic forces of existence. You can almost feel the presence of these beliefs in the air, carried by the whispers of history. Consider the Eleusinian mysteries, those secret religious rites dedicated to Demeter and Persephone. While their exact rituals remain largely unknown, they were, after all, mysteries. We know they promised initiates a better afterlife, a hope of triumph over death, mirroring Persephone's return from the underworld. Participating in these rituals meant you were literally reenacting or deeply connecting with the divine journey of the goddesses. It's like having a spiritual VIP pass to the secrets of the universe, all thanks to a story about a kidnapped goddess. One quirky tidbit is the contrast between the fearsome Hades and the ultimately beneficial outcome of the myth. While his act was violent, the resulting cycle of seasons was essential for human life. This hints at the ancient Greek comfort with paradox, where even dark, morally ambiguous divine actions could lead to necessary life-sustaining results. It suggests that even in the deepest darkness, there is a purpose, a necessary part of the grand design. It's a bit like finding out the villain of the story inadvertently created the conditions for a really great public holiday. The myth also explores profound themes: parental love and grief, Demeter, desire and obsession, Hades, innocence, lost, and wisdom gained, Persephone, and the complex interplay of power among the gods, Zeus's intervention. These aren't just characters, they are archetypes embodying universal human experiences and emotions, making the story timeless and endlessly relatable. Historians still argue whether the myth's themes primarily reflect societal anxieties about fertility and lineage, or if they offer profound psychological insights into the human condition grappling with loss, change, and the pursuit of control in an unpredictable world. You consider how the myth might have shaped the ancient Greek relationship with death. Unlike some cultures that viewed death as an absolute end, the Persephone myth suggested a cyclical journey, a return, a possibility of passage, and even sovereignty in the afterlife. It might have offered a glimmer of hope, a softening of the grim finality. Death was not just an abyss. It was also a realm with a queen, a place intertwined with life. As you linger in this understanding, you recognize that the Persephone myth is not merely a tale told at bedtime. It is a fundamental pillar of ancient Greek thought and spirituality. Its power endured for centuries, woven into the fabric of their daily rituals, their agricultural practices, their philosophical musings, and their profound understanding of the universe. It explained why the world changed, why life and death were intertwined, and why after every cold winter, the promise of spring would always inevitably return. It allowed them to find meaning and order in the ever-turning wheel of existence, providing comfort and reassurance through a narrative as old as the seasons themselves. Having traversed the long winding paths of Persephone's annual journey from the idyllic meadow to the grim halls of the underworld, and back again, you now stand at the culmination of our story. This final contemplation is about the profound reflection on cycles that the myth of Persephone offers, a quiet understanding that transcends the ancient world and resonates deeply with your own experience of life. You breathe in deeply, feeling the rhythm of your own breath, the subtle rise and fall, mirroring the cycles we've explored. The Persephone myth isn't just a historical anecdote, it's a timeless metaphor for the fundamental patterns that govern existence. It speaks to the ebb and flow of joy and sorrow, absence and presence, death and rebirth, not just in the natural world, but within ourselves. Think about it. Life is a series of seasons, isn't it? There are periods of vibrant growth and abundance, like Demeter's joyful reign, where everything feels full of possibility and warmth. These are our personal springs and summers, moments of connection, creativity, and flourishing. You bask in the light, feeling completely alive, completely whole. But just as inevitably, there are periods of withdrawal, of dormancy, of quiet struggle. These are our personal autumns and winters, when things slow down, when connections might feel distant, when a sense of barrenness or loss might creep in. Perhaps you face a period of introspection, a time when your inner world feels a little dimmer, a little colder. This cyclical nature of life, with its highs and lows, its periods of vibrancy and quietude, is a universally recognized human experience. The myth reassures us that even in the deepest winter beneath the frozen ground, the seeds of future growth are already present, patiently waiting. Persephone's time in the underworld wasn't just imprisonment. It was a period of transformation, of gaining new wisdom and sovereignty over a darker, deeper domain. It suggests that our own periods of darkness, our challenges, our losses, are not merely absences, but can be seasons of profound learning, of cultivating an inner strength that is only forged in shadow. It's like a quiet internal process, much like a bulb resting in the cold earth, gathering its strength for the eventual bloom. Historians still argue whether the Eleusinian mysteries, with their promise of a better afterlife, truly offered a form of psychological comfort to ancient Greeks facing death, or if they served primarily as a means of social cohesion and ritualistic participation. Regardless, the myth itself provides a narrative framework for understanding the transitions of life. You reflect on the resilience inherent in these cycles. The world doesn't stay barren forever. Demeter doesn't grieve eternally without solace. There is always the promise of return, the inevitability of renewal. The myth teaches us that endings are often just new beginnings, and that even the most profound sorrow eventually gives way to joy, even if that joy is tempered by the memory of what was lost. It's a beautifully melancholic truth that perfect, endless summer doesn't exist, but neither does eternal winter. There is always movement, always change, always the turn of the wheel. One quirky tidbit to leave you with: the very act of telling and retelling this myth generation after generation was itself a cyclical act, a way for ancient Greek society to reaffirm their understanding of their world and their place within it. Each time the story was spoken, painted, or ritualized, it brought Demeter's grief and Persephone's return back into being a living connection to the forces that governed their lives. It's almost as if the act of narration itself breathed life into the seasons. As the imagery of the myth begins to fade, and your own awareness of this comfortable, quiet space gently returns, allow yourself to embrace this profound reflection on cycles. Recognize that the darkness serves the light, that absence paves the way for presence, and that sorrow often gives birth to a deeper appreciation for joy. The world, your world, is constantly moving, constantly transforming, always offering the promise of a new spring even after the longest winter. There is comfort in this rhythm, a deep, ancient peace in knowing that no state is permanent and renewal is always on the horizon.